Welcome everyone to our webinar on driving under the influence of alcohol and drugs, a very important topic for the European Road Safety Charter. We're very welcome to have you all here. We have a very interesting, we have 4 very interesting presentations for you. Just before we get started, 2 housekeeping rules. So the presentation will be recorded, so you can always rewatch it on our website afterwards. And if you have any questions during the presentations, you can use the chat function. And then after each presentation, we have a Q&A moment where we will pop up your questions. After every presentation, there is also a slide with the contact details of the speakers, so you can also contact them directly afterwards. So what will our agenda look like? We have 4 very interesting presentations. We will start with a deeper understanding of driving under the influence of drugs by Amy Haley from Swinburne University of Technology. So we're even going outside of Europe this time, which is quite unique. Then we will go more into how we can create a campaign against driving under the influence of marijuana, which will be a talk by Marina Bayer from the Deutscher Verkehrssicherheitsrat. And then we will go to Mindaugas Vilkikas, who will talk a little bit about the situation in Lithuania on driving under the influence and how driving courses could potentially help to resolve this issue. And we will close this webinar by a presentation by Caterina Del Liali from CINEA, who will give some results about 2 recent projects from Horizon 2020, namely Fit Drive and Panacea. So without further ado, I would like to give the floor to our first speaker, Amy Haley. Amy, you can share your screen.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for having me from sunny Australia, even though it is currently about 8 p.m. here. I'm going to be speaking a little bit about driving under the influence of drugs. I'm a Rebecca Cooper Allenvale Rosenstrauss Fellow at Swinburne University of Technology in Melbourne, Australia. I'm also a board member for the International Council for Alcohol, Drugs and Traffic Safety, and I chair the International Working Group for Driver Monitoring Systems. I'll be speaking today about the scope and the magnitude of the problems of driving under the influence of drugs, as well as to some of the recent advancements that will hopefully prevent impaired driving into the future. Before I begin, I just wanted to say thank you for the invitation to speak with you all today. I'm extremely grateful for this opportunity to chat to the community about this complex global problem. There are 5 main themes that I want to cover today in the webinar. The first being the global macroeconomic and health burden of road trauma. I will then talk to the general prevalence estimates of driving under the influence of drugs across Europe and some of the interesting trends that we have observed over the past decade or so. Moving towards how drugs effects can differently impact our ability to drive, I will talk a little about the acute intoxicating effects of some, but not all, drug classes, and some of the challenges that we have with defining these. This leads into considerations beyond acute intoxication and for understanding how long-term drug use can impact multiple end-order body functions and processes that are relevant for driving ability. Similarly, moving past acute and protracted drug use, how interpersonal, environmental, and situational factors can also interact to influence driving under the influence of drugs. Finally, I will speak a little bit about how we envision impaired driver management into the future, and we'll talk about some of the exciting developments in intelligent system and technology design that are intended to help stop or prevent alcohol-impaired drivers from causing harm on our roads. Road trauma is a devastating but near ubiquitous event. Most people in attendance here, myself included, will have either personally experienced the loss of a loved one due to a traffic crash or else know someone who has. It is a trauma that is far too common and for which has devastating and long-lasting effects on individuals, families, and the community as a whole. Finding ways to reduce the burden of road trauma for those I love is a huge influencing factor in why I work in this space. Each year, the lives of over 1.3 million people will be cut short due to a road traffic crash. A further 50 million people will also suffer non-fatal injuries, including serious and lifelong disability. Crash injuries represent the 8th leading cause globally of death for all age groups, and it is now the leading cause of preventable death for children and young people aged between 5 and 29 years of age. Road traffic injuries cause considerable economic losses to individuals, their families, and to nations as a whole. Between 2015 and 2030, road traffic crashes are projected to cost the world economy $1.8 trillion, equivalent to an annual tax of 0.12% of GDP, through a combination of diversion and other healthcare expenditures that would otherwise have been used for savings and investment. The total annual cost for Europe is estimated at 180 billion euros, or 2% of total GDP. The global macroeconomic and health burden of road traffic crashes is unequally distributed and disproportionately borne by low and middle income regions. People who live in low middle income regions are more likely to be involved in a traffic crash, and the economic impact on people with low incomes can be more significant, pushing people deeper into poverty or limiting their future economic potential. Despite accounting for just over half of the world's registered vehicles, these regions account for more than 90% of the world's traffic crash fatalities. In fact, people who live in these low middle income countries are over 3 times more likely to be killed. In part, this is attributed to a complex combination of population density, topography, and a varied mix of road user types. These ongoing challenges mean that unlike many wealthier countries, low middle income regions have not seen a gradual reduction in the number of road traffic fatalities over the past decade or so. Given that road traffic deaths and serious injuries are largely preventable, road safety should be considered as an issue that can contribute to poverty reduction at both an individual and a national level. Impaired driving remains a major cause of motor traffic crashes worldwide and is the leading cause of injury and death not only across Europe, but also North America and here in Australia. In its legal definition, impaired driving refers to operating a motor vehicle when your ability to do so is reduced due to the effects of drugs or alcohol. Decades of comprehensive research, policy, and enforcement data allows us to explore trends and changes over time regarding the scope and impact of impaired driving and to gauge the effectiveness of certain interventions and policy decisions on road safety outcomes. While alcohol usage remains a leading cause of preventable injury and death on European roads, accounting for approximately 25% of road trauma cases, there has been a long-term decrease in alcohol-related road deaths, which have declined at a faster rate than other road fatality types. In fact, we have seen a near 37% reduction in the past 10 to 15 years or so. These trends likely reflect the robust harm reduction approaches used to disincentivize alcohol-impaired driving and increase the visibility of law enforcement. This is linked to wider reductions in alcohol consumption at a population level, as well as comprehensive awareness strategies and growing social unacceptability. Evidence on trends in drug-related deaths and injuries across Europe is comparatively limited. However, recent surveys suggest that between 6 and 11% of randomly stopped drivers in EU countries will test positive for drugs, with certain substances posing an even greater crash risk than alcohol. This includes common medications such as benzodiazepines and amphetamine-type stimulants. Among drivers who are injured or killed and tested in the hospital, the prevalence of drugs rises to approximately 15%. Excuse me. This is broadly consistent with self-report surveys, which show that 20% of drivers admit to getting behind the wheel after consuming potentially impairing substances. Excuse me. Overwhelmingly, THC and methamphetamine are the most common drug detected at the roadside and among drivers involved in a traffic crash. In Australia, almost half of all fatal collisions will involve at least one illicit substance. This is also most commonly cannabis or methamphetamine. Acute intoxication due to drug or alcohol use can severely impair a driver's ability to drive safely by affecting judgment, coordination, vision, and reaction time, leading to an increased risk of crashes. The exact mechanism by which psychoactive substances affect skills and behaviors related to driving are extremely diverse and can vary depending on the drug used, the amount consumed, and the chosen route of administration, among other things. Despite the complexity of this picture, I'm going to walk through a few of the common substances and their most well-defined effects on driving. Broadly, even small amounts of psychoactive substances can affect visual processing abilities, concentration, mood, and coordination, and cause slower reaction times, leading to an increased risk of a crash. How this works is complex and can be linked back to our understanding of the individual cognitive components and the larger behavioral requirements of driving. For example, we know that driving is a safety critical task which is predominantly reliant on sustained vigilance, visual acuity, and a seamless integration of attentional engagement with motor coordination. Therefore, it requires an attentive, focused, responsive, and competent operator. Some sedating type drugs like alcohol and benzodiazepines can affect these skills by slowing down reaction time, impairing information processing, and decreasing decision making and the ability to make timely and accurate judgments. Stimulant drugs, on the other hand, are somewhat more complicated as they are traditionally a performance enhancing drug. However, when consumed in large doses or over a long period of time, they produce a ceiling effect whereby beneficial effects on aspects of things like sustained attention and visual scanning capabilities are seriously compromised. Then we also have issues with drug-drug or drug-alcohol combinations to consider. When used in combination, these effects can be additive, whereby two similar drugs are taken together to achieve a same degree of a psychoactive effect of either drug. For example, things like alcohol and antihistamines together can both cause drowsiness, and then when used in combination, someone might feel too tired to drive safely. We also have combinations like painkillers and muscle relaxants, whereby each of these reduces alertness, and in combination, they may impair coordination. This can also be synergistic, when two or more drugs are taken together and their combined impact is greater than the sum of their individual effects. These are pharmacologically more concerning effects when it comes to driving, as it can profoundly impair behavior and performance. Common examples of this are things like alcohol and opioids, which in combination can dangerously slow breathing and significantly impair motor control. Other combinations like caffeine and some stimulants can induce jitteriness, heart strain, and induce changes to motor control. And then we have other combinations like cannabis and alcohol, which can cause unpredictable effects on things like attention and motor control. Beyond these acute effects, it's also worth mentioning the potential impact of things like knowledge base and emotional skills, and how these can inform how drivers recognize drug effects, including how medications, alcohol, or other substances impair attention, reaction time, or coordination, how people may interpret labels and warnings, and how they might understand dosage instructions, side effects, and drug interactions, whether or not people can recognize when they're not in the right state to drive. So this might be whether due to drowsiness, anxiety, or slowed thinking. And finally, things like impulse control. Drugs can and do acutely impair judgment, but emotional regulation can help resist risky behaviors like just driving a short distance whilst impaired. Beyond acute intoxication, protracted Substance use or addiction can indirectly increase the risk of traffic-related harm through greater drug tolerance, situational and health factors, and even poor health and safety social nets and support systems. The stages of acute withdrawal from a drug of dependence can produce effects that are known to be incompatible with safe driving. This can include things like acute altered psychiatric states, changes in sleep patterns, instances or cases of nausea or vomiting, but also physical symptoms like body aches and fevers. We also see several end-order effects associated with long-term drug use that can negatively impact road safety, even in the absence of acute intoxication. This can include things like severe and persistent changes to cognitive capacity and function due to structural or anatomical changes to the brain. And this can lead to things like severe memory problems, again, mood or psychiatric changes that are more sustained, impaired macular health, and also changes in coordination and balance. To my earlier point regarding the impacts of substance use on driver safety, there are also several known complex and interconnected factors that can peripherally impact the attitudes, knowledge, and instances of driving under the influence of drugs among people that consume them. Broadly, this can be categorized into factors that relate to the driver, that is, the personal characteristics and health of the driver, which may be contributing factors to their decision-making ability or their potential to drive under the influence of drugs. This can include things like their values, their acceptability of substance usage, their attitudes towards risk, and as well as ethics and morals. We also have circumstances like life stage, as well as finances and responsibilities. Personality factors can also be important in terms of developmental stage, and this can include age-related factors, things like impulse control, emotional regulation, and neurodiversity. And finally, things like physical health, mobility, fitness, injury, or illness. We also have factors related to the environment. So this can be contextual, and they relate to living environment factors, which affects the perceptions of drug use and how this may influence their decision to use drugs or drive under the influence. This can be things like location, whether or not there are acceptable transport options for people, work and school and organizational culture, their expectations and pressure around driving under the influence and using substances, their home life, like culture, religion, guidance, and support, as well as attitudes and the degree that they accept or do not accept drug use and how this relates back to identity. Finally, we also have factors related to motivation. People who use drugs might experience an underlying factor that impacts their inclination to drive under the influence. This can include social, peer, or workplace pressures, or needs related to substance dependence. So things like self-image, peer pressure and belonging, access to social and educational facilities, dependence, so factors related to addiction, withdrawal, and their coping mechanisms. And finally, things like receptivity to and effectiveness of deterrent strategies. The issue of substance usage is complex and multifaceted and can't really be captured in my very short presentation. It therefore requires solutions that are adaptive, responsive, and are safety sensitive. I'm going to speak briefly now to some of the emergent technologies and some of the emergent vehicle safety systems that are designed to detect an index driver impairment and how these might be poised to help proactively reduce and prevent injuries and deaths on our roads into the future. Broadly speaking, methods to address impaired driving have been historically reactive. Seatbelts and airbags, whilst effective, are only deployed after a collision has occurred. Newer vehicle systems and standards offer an exciting potential to shift towards proactive measures, that is, intervening to prevent a crash from happening in the first case. Most newer vehicles are already equipped with some type of driver assist features that are intended to help avoid collisions or to track driver behavior including advanced driver assist systems and vehicle telemetry. This can include things like blind spot monitoring and also lane departure warnings. These collect useful information about whether and to what extent the brakes are applied, if there's harsh acceleration or sharp or evasive steering. Together, this information can provide us with insights into how a person is using a vehicle and in what manner, and can also be tailored to recognize patterns in behavior that may increase crash risk. These are already used to some extent for fleet vehicles, and the data can be pulled directly from the vehicle to explore patterns of behavior in real conditions. Stepping up from this more basic function, we have things like direct driver monitoring systems. These refer to the embedded aftermarket wearable or vehicle-mounted devices such as eye trackers that collect observable information about the person controlling the vehicle to make real-time assessments of their capacity to drive. These are already equipped to scan and alert for things like fatigue and inattention, and conceptually can be adapted for uptake to include a model for impairment due to psychoactive substance usage. However, the standards for this are not quite there yet, and much work needs to be done in order to see how and if we can actually differentiate between the presence of a substance versus whether or not that substance is functionally impairing. Remembering back as well to that complex matrix of the drug effects on driver skills that I presented, this is easier said than done, but it is something that myself and other researchers are actively working on. A final step in this puzzle is to optimize road safety into the future will be to ensure that the vehicle and the driver, so that is the external and the internal systems, actually talk to one another. This is a vital step to ensure that the appropriateness of any applied intervention, things like preventing a driver from going over a certain speed if they're not deemed to be fit to drive, but this is a long way off. How this will change with automation is another unknown. Does a driver need to be competent if the vehicle is able to exert control? And a final important point is that any future systems that we do want to develop with the intent of improving road safety must meet the needs of those it intends to benefit. Improving knowledge and literacy around the capabilities and limitations of current systems and how these are likely to change into the future will help improve uptake and trust in these types of systems. Therefore, an open and collaborative approach is needed as we move to take the next important leap forward in the future of road safety and harm prevention. Before I finish up, a couple of the main points just to sort of highlight the main themes of my presentation. We know that impaired driving that results in death or injury is a global concern that is only going to deteriorate if no practical steps are taken to resolve it. Drug driving is a multifaceted and complex problem in its causes and outcomes, for which is a constantly evolving problem for research, policy, and practice. The approaches used to mitigate harm are thus far limited in their usefulness and scope. As we move towards more intelligent safety systems, adaptive solutions that can detect an impaired driver and respond or intervene appropriately are urgently needed. However, we also need to make sure that we are co-developing systems that are responsive and accurate, and that any interventions applied are clear and safety relevant. This is the only way that we can ensure an equitable and transparent road safety system into the future as we manage the impact of impaired driving due to drug use. To finish, I just wanted to quickly thank the members of our lab for who make this work possible. Our wonderful senior staff team, as well as a dedicated group of postgraduate and undergraduate students who are going to be an excellent next generation of researchers to watch. I also, of course, wanted to acknowledge the generosity of much of our funding partners who we are fortunate to have work with us and to help us build work in this area of research. My contact details are on the screen, so please do let me know if you have any questions, and I would be very happy to talk more about this topic to anyone at any time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amy. I think that was super interesting, both very broad and detailed at the same time. I don't know if there are any questions from the audience.
Good morning, everybody. I see a lot of people are saying good morning. So good morning from the European Road Safety Charter team to all these countries.
Good evening.
Thanks a lot, Amy. But are there also questions for Amy? Who has a question?
I see Benjamin Yahar raised his hand. Lindsay, can you maybe enable him to talk?
I'm Benjamin Yeager from Monrovia, Liberia, West Africa. Someone has registered me for this training, and I'm with one local group in Liberia. We're into driver education and safety and all these driving related issues. I would like to know in a country like ours, undeveloped country like Liberia, or I don't know what category I put it in, to lay your hands on data that relates to these things are very challenging. So I would just like to know the speaker from her experience into safety and all the different things she's talked about. How can someone like me in Liberia benefit from the vast knowledge and information she puts out there that will be able to help me?
I think it's a very complex issue for which has many important sort of parts to the story. I mean, as a researcher myself, I'm always happy to provide any information on any specific field of road safety that I might be able to assist with. Collaboration is really one of the strongest tools that we have in road safety and harm reduction in this space, and it helps to, I guess, bridge any geographical gaps that we might have, and extends the capabilities of an individual researcher so that they might benefit from the knowledge and experience of other groups. In Australia, we are quite geographically isolated. A lot of the research that happens across Europe and America, I've made a really important point to try throughout my career to make connections with individuals from lots of different research streams, as well as policy and practice. So my advice would really just be to reach out. It's a very helpful and friendly community. If you want to send me an email after this, I would be happy to chat more and see if I can help.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Of course.
There is another question which is put in this chat by Asa. Thank you for the presentation, Amy. In your opinion, what is the state of research in polysubstance use? Should we know more about the road safety effects?
It's a very challenging topic. In experimental research, it is something that is quite difficult to replicate accurately in a laboratory environment. As you know, the way in which people take drugs recreationally is often so different and more complicated and more protracted than we're able to replicate in our controlled scenarios. Much of our data on polysubstance use and its impact on road safety comes from fatality data from hospitals, where we can sort of try to disentangle the responsibility of a driver for a crash and other sort of factors in that crash where multiple drugs are present. Laboratory research is really important to try and find at a deeper level how different drugs might interact, particularly for common combinations. So, things like amphetamines and alcohol are very commonly found together, but they have quite disparate pharmacological profiles and effects on behavior. So that is just something that's really quite challenging. But research is being done. It's just we're trying to sort of build that profile.
Yes, so thank you for the questions. I would like now to give the floor to Marina, who will talk a little bit more about the marketing campaign that they did on driving under the influence of marijuana. I think she has some technical issues. So, Mindaugas, are you maybe able to already give your presentation, and we can give Marina some more time?
Okay, so good morning, everybody. It's nice to be here, and it's it's nice to share the ideas and to hear some interesting thoughts about this problem. One of the I should say one of the most important problems to the road safety. And my name is Mindaugas Vilkickas. I'm an executive of the association, the Guild of Driving Teachers in Lithuania. And also I'm working as a driver teacher in the school, and also leading some courses for traffic offenders. And so the topics. So here I will present how does it look like the current system of driving courses for traffic offenders in Lithuania. Before that, I would like to present also in a brief way a short statistical information. What is the situation about driving under the influence in Lithuania? So year by year, it's a pity, but the number of the persons who were catched by the police, how to say in that way, or arrested by the police for the driving under the influence, it's about 10,000 and above 10,000 of drivers for a small country like Lithuania, which population is less than 3 million. Approximately, it's about 2.7 million at the moment. I think it's too much. These numbers are quite big. And in red columns, you can see it's a number of the drivers which in a higher level of intoxication with alcohol. That means up more than 1.51 per mil. And in green columns, it's intoxicated less, and it's less than 1.5 per mil. And it's a pity, but there is no official. Probably it is, but it's not presented in more detailed, and it is not so easy to find the information. What the number is under in these numbers, what is the number of drivers included after under the drugs influence. So the drug influenced drivers, they are also in these numbers hidden under these per mils. So that's not so clear what the statistics of this. And regarding to the accidents caused by drunk drivers, so the number of accidents, it's going down a little bit, but the problem is that almost all accidents committed by the drivers under the influence, almost in all accidents there are injured people, or sometimes it's a pity, but also there are killed people in such accidents. And the number of them, which I hope in some day, some way it will go to zero, but it's still too much. So the situation looks like this. And there is for the years it was only sanctions. That means penalties, quite big penalties, and also some other sanctions to these drivers, like losing their driving license. And some years ago, it's already more than about 12 or even 15 years ago, additional course for training for these drivers was officially started. So the current version is valid from 2014, and here I'm giving the link. Also, I think it will be possible to represent, to give to anybody who wish. I can send this link to download the official document. Yes, it is in Lithuanian, but in nowadays technologies, I think it will be easy to translate. And it's this law describes very in very detailed what should be in that course, and so on. So I shortly present this course. So additional training additional training for the drivers who have offended the traffic rules. They are divided into two big groups. So the novice drivers, that means up to 2 years of experience, and another drivers who has who have more than 2 years of experience. So there are a lot of requirements to drive safely for the novice drivers, also for all rest drivers the same requirements. But one of the points that the novice driver should drive without under the influence at all. So officially the limit is allowed 0.4 per mil, but even with, up to this level, intoxication is allowed in Lithuania. But even this allowed for the other drivers level of intoxication is not allowed for the novice drivers. So if such driver is being catched by the police, he or she must take this course of additional driver training. So not only penalties, but also this course they must attend in order to prolong their driving license after 2 years. And another group of drivers. So there are all the rest drivers with experience more than 2 years, and who made road traffic violations and were sanctioned with fines. Also, they have lost their driving license for the intended period. And in that list of the violations, there is also the driving under the influence. And driving under the influence also is divided into administrative responsibility, and when the driver is driving under the influence above than 1.5 per mil, that means criminal liability, and even such driver can go to jail. But there are very few cases like this in real. For the real going to the prison in more cases, we get very big fines, big limitations for not allowing to drive, and so on. So briefly, I will present what does it look like, that official driving course for traffic offenders, which in other words, it's called additional driver training. So content of the course consists of 45-minute individual consultation with a psychologist, a 45-minute theory course led by a driving teacher. This is my area. And a 90 minutes psychology course led by a psychologist. And also with the driving instructor, there should be performed safe, economical, and ecological driving training for at least 45 minutes in a B category vehicle. And also there are some exclusions when the practical driving course of these 45 minutes is not mandatory. And also this course is finished when the test of the course topics is passed. The test must consist of 25 questions. One question must have at least 4 answers, which only one can be correct. And the knowledge test is considered passed if at least 80% of the questions are answered correctly. So the whole number of the drivers who have completed this course, it is also increasing. And in the last year, it was more than 16,000 persons attending this course. And it's a pity, but there is also no official information presented how many of the total number of participants of the course are the drivers under the influence. So it's quite complicated to compare these proportions. And also for the drivers under the influence here in Lithuania, there are some additional courses, courses to add, not two different programs, one program, which is a prevention program about the harm of alcohol and drugs to the human health. And another program, which is called a free program in Lithuania, is a prevention program courses on training to drive with an alcohol interlock. This is administratively sentenced to a penalty, a probationary period to shorten the period of driving license revocation. After completing this course, the drivers got the license with special code, and that means the permission only to drive a vehicle with his anti-alcohol engine lock installed. So the driver who can choose which course, which program he or she wants to pass. And so official wishes to improve the road safety according to the driving under influence. It looked good, but there are also some problems which have arisen, and our guild, the Guild of Driving Teachers, in 2019 ordered a hidden shopper investigation because we wanted to inspect, we wanted to study how does it look like the fulfillment quality of this course, and the results, it's a pity, but they were disappointing. And the results, they were presented to the responsible authorities, but no attention raised, therefore no improvements were initiated. So briefly, in some slides, I will present what were the problems raised during these courses, how we are performed. So the problems encountered that there are no specialized psychologists working with the road traffic violations psychology team. Any psychologist can work with road traffic offenders. Nobody cares that this is quite specific area. Yes, there are some requirements for the psychologist, for example, at least 3 years of work experience, master degree level, and so on. But for example, children psychologist can go to the driving school and to work as a psychologist with the traffic violators. I think it's a little bit different topics, and there should be some specialized psychologists. According to that, the individual psychological consultation during this course is not recorded, because all of the courses I have mentioned, for example, 90 minutes psychology lecture, 45 minutes driving lesson, 45 minutes driving theory lesson, all these, they are being recorded. They have to be storage for at least 1 year. In a case of inspection, did the person pass these courses, yes or not? But personal psychological consultation is not being recorded. So these consultations are either not carried out at all, or they are fulfilled for a shorter duration when required. Also, some of the consultations themselves, they do not comply to the requirements which should be done. So this situation here in Lithuania not only allows for unscrupulous schools to save costs by not providing psychological consultations, but also discourage the idea of training or specialized road traffic violation psychologists. Other problems encountered after this hidden shopper research. So that there are no specialized training for instructors who works with a practical part of this course. So the training is being totally different by different instructors, and in some cases the selected route is simply driven twice. Such requirement it is in that official law of the driving course, so that the same route should be driven twice, but there should be performed additional training during this route. but simply driving, and now with not performing additional training, how to drive more safely, how to save fuel, how not to lose driving time, how to reach the destinations on the same time, driving more safely and consuming less fuel. So, and there is no control for the practical driving. Was it carried out in accordance within the course requirements or not? The mentioned means that the practical driving of the course becomes worthless and does not achieve the set goals. Other problems, bigger problems in a state level problem. So that the Republic of Lithuania has built 4 specialized autodromes using national and European Union funds, and one of the functions for these autodromes was expected to be to use this infrastructure for special practical driving lessons during the course of driving offenders, in order to help them to understand the road traffic hazards, in order to understand how a vehicle behaves in different conditions, and so on, so on, so on. And also this function was foreseen in 2016 by the State Traffic Society Commission of the Republic of Lithuania, headed by the Prime Minister. And however, instead of practicing the autodromes, the Lithuanian Minister of Transport and Communications just added the theoretical lectures, short topics related to electronic car safety systems, and that's also practical training for traffic offenders are not performed at specialized autodromes like it was some hopes that it will be done here. So this and the institution, Lithuanian Transport Safety Administrator, which is directly responsible for the supervision of driving course for the traffic offenders, does not essentially perform supervising function of these courses, or the supervising is performed only by checking minor formal matters without checking whether this course is performed qualitatively as a whole. So, but if the situation is like this for a moment, and for several years, the Guild has been trying to pay attention of the authorities to the fact we were contacting, we were communicating, to the fact about the fact that the driving course for traffic offenders, the idea of which was and remains a really good one, I think, and has turned into a mere formality due to the lack of effective control. It's a pity. And in many cases, this course is being carried out with poor quality, and as a result, failing to achieve the set goals of improving road safety. There is no official statistic, and researchers or other information is not being collected at the state level about the real influence of this course for improving of road safety. It's not clear how many drivers actually change their behavior after the course, and also what is the influence of this course of increase road safety. Only in private talks I can mention that when I have private talks with some of the drivers who come to this course, some of them, yes, they are telling that they got the ideas that they will change how to change their behavior, yeah, that they will drive safer and so on. But this is just private information from few students. So such information cannot be taken in an official level, what is the real influence of each course. So in the absence of the feedback analysis at the state level, it becomes even more difficult to evaluate the positive effect of this course to the road safety and the real necessity of it in general. So, therefore, the opinion of the Guild about this course is that nothing ruins a good idea like its implementation. So it's a pity, but sometimes it looks like that. So there is no doubt at all in our opinion that the idea of this course and its goal to increase road safety are indisputably good. But however, without a state level control, normal level of control, the proper fulfillment of this course, it becomes only a mere formality for regaining the driving license with little or maybe no effect for increasing road safety. So the main conclusion of my presentation is that if some of the countries are thinking and are going to implement similar courses for the drivers who were driving under the influence, there should be continuous supervision of this course fulfillment and ensuring that this is carried out qualitatively as intended by the legislator. This is necessary in order to get the positive results of such training, of this additional training of the drivers. So thank you for your attention, and I will try to answer to your questions if there are some, and also there are our association contacts. So don't hesitate, write, and we will try to answer to any of your questions about these additional training programs in Lithuania. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. That was again a very interesting presentation, and I think it was also very valuable that you shared so many lessons learned that other countries can also take into account. Isabel, are there any questions?
Yes.
Yes, there is one of Wendy Engelberts. So Mindaugas, the question is, how many persons are driving with an alcohol interlock, and do you see an improvement afterwards? So what is the effect?
Yeah, the problem is that there is also no information to that. No official information. I can't represent this. I have only hope that when I met directly with the drivers who are passing these courses, and these drivers who are passing the A3 course in order to drive the vehicle with the anti-alcohol interlock, that they are motivated to drive without under the influence and so on. So I see on the people, I see that motivation to drive safer and to have no more business with driving under the influence.
Okay, thanks for your answer. Is there another question in regards to the system of traffic offenders in Lithuania? Yes, there is one of Karl Butler. How many occurrences are there of repeat offenders?
So the number of drivers who repeats that course,
yes.
Not so much. Only, in my opinion, what we see in our school, percent, maybe less, very few percent coming again and again. So there are two ideas about this. One idea that probably the person who has violated once again the traffic rules also, or was driving under the influence, so he or she maybe goes to another school, maybe, so we can't see them. And another idea there should be that these drivers, they have done the conclusions and they are not driving anymore under the influence. So, but the real situation, how many drivers repeats this course, there are also no official information.
Okay, thank you, Mindaugas, for the presentation. Thank you, audience, for the questions. So
yes.
if there are still some questions, don't hesitate to put them in the chat or to contact Mindaugas immediately. Then I go back to Sophie.
Thank you, Isabel. Marina, how is it going with the voice?
Let's try it again. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. You're back.
Oh my God. I'm so sorry. I was having some technical problems, and I've already have 2 iPhones to get online by some other device, but I'm happy you can hear me. So hello, good morning, everyone. And thank you for having me on this webinar. I'm excited that you have invited me. So, and my name is Marina Bayer. and I work for the DVR, which is the German Road Safety Council. I work as a campaign manager, and I would like to tell you today a little bit about a campaign that we started last year. I said last year, exactly 1 year ago, in October 2024, we have launched a prevention campaign against driving under the influence of marijuana, and because in that year the German government brought along a new law that was partly legalizing the recreational use of marijuana in Germany for everyone who is 18 years and older. And this was and still is a very big concern for us regarding the road safety in our country, because we have already seen over the last 30 years the number of accidents and number of victims and deaths on the road rising due to drugs, and the number one among those drugs is marijuana or cannabis, THC. Yes, we said we have to do some public education, some public information right away, and we worked out this campaign that I would like to tell you about. So the goal of this campaign, because there was a new law and also new regulations, for example, the level of THC that you can have in your blood when driving was put up, but not for everybody. So it was also a bit confusing. So we wanted to build the awareness nationwide and promote traffic safe behavior, just to prevent more accidents coming on our roads after this legalization in last year in our country. And but we decided not to address everyone because it's just too big. So we decided to have two target groups, to address two target groups. And the primary group, we chose the young people of age of 18 to 24 years. And as a secondary target group, we chose 25 to 39-year-olds, just because I put the percentage numbers. As you can see, those are the age groups in our population in our country that have the highest marijuana use, especially the very young ones, the primary group. And in the primary group, it is already very high and it's rising over the years. So we decided to address the two groups, but to focus on the very young ones, because we see them as a high-risk group. So those people are most frequently involved in roadside accidents in our country, and also have the highest rate of road death across the European Union. Maybe you remember being younger, you feel like you're immortal and you're more prone to risky behavior. So that's why we put the focus on them. Before starting the campaign, or even starting working it out, we made a representative survey among German 18 to 24-year-olds after the legalization. And this survey really showed us that there really is a high need for education regarding the risk and the problems of driving impaired. All those risks that Amy just told us about in her presentation, and also about the new regulations that came along with the new law. And in general, like, I think it was 98% of the people that we were asking, they said, yes, it is so dangerous driving impaired by drugs. But when you look at further questions, like, do you think you will be using more marijuana because it is legal now? Many of them said, yes, I will use more. And I also would like to show you two questions that show that there really is a problem in the German population. We saw asking, how long should you wait after, for instance, smoking a joint before you can drive a vehicle safely? And as you see the answers, around 60% of the people we asked, they just said, I simply don't know, or they gave us very concerning answers like, oh, 2 hours or 3 hours is enough, which really isn't. In our country at this moment, we have a recommendation to wait at least for 24 hours before driving a car or other motorized vehicles. So around 60% are just not aware of this long-lasting impairment on your driving ability that is caused by marijuana. And the second question I would like to show you is that, as I said, we have a higher THC limit that you can have in your blood when you drive. And it was lifted up, but to 3.5 nanograms of THC in your blood, but it does not apply to young people. So if you are under the age of 21, or if you just got your driver's license and you're still in the probationary period, this does not apply to you. So there is a complete ban of using marijuana and then driving, and half of the people that we asked, they just did not know about this. So this survey was just confirming us in our efforts to put up a campaign and to get out with preventive messages out there in the public. As we are addressing young people in our culture, we decided for a certain communication strategy, which is maybe quite different from the campaigns that we have seen on the international level before. Like maybe you know the Canadian Don't Drive High campaign that is also showing like young people having a party and smoking and afterwards having a crash, or maybe mourning parents and mourning friends that have lost someone in a car accident. Or also if you take a look at the US campaigns, there is a campaign saying, drive high, get a DUI, the police will get you and it will cost you, it will be expensive for you. So having this young target group and being in the German culture, we decided to go for another communication strategy because we think this will work better for us in our country. And we decided to show in a positive way how to get home safely, how to act safely in traffic when you're under the drug influence. And we also decided to explain those risks that you're taking when you're driving impaired, but we decided to do it in a humorous way and also in a relatable way for the young people. And we did not want to, as we say in German, to point the moral finger, like, don't do this, and this is dangerous. And you will have trouble, because we know that this doesn't really work with the young people in our country. So we decided also to communicate at eye level, to take the audience, for serious, and to not criticize anyone for using marijuana, because we don't like it, but it's legal now in our country, and when you're 18 you can do it, so that's your private decision. But if you do so, and when you're under the influence, then do this to get home safely. That's one we wanted to show. So this, in our opinion, was the more effective way to get this message out there and to have it accepted by the audience, and also to build the awareness and raise the awareness. So the approach was to show a safe way home by bus, by taxi, maybe by even calling your mom. But we wanted to show it as something that is so glamorous and that it feels so nice when you're high. I mean, you have different feelings anyway, you experience everything very intense. And so we're playing with this idea that you feel like a total VIP and let the others drive for you and you enjoy the ride. And we over-exaggerate it, so you can see it's actually, it's fun, it's joke. And this is what came out, the campaign with the claim, High fährt nicht, High lässt fahren. I have translated into English here for you. High doesn't drive, High gets to ride, which, in German language has a certain coolness to it, because I let others drive or I get a ride means something like, I'm too cool to do the work myself. I let others to do the work for me. And I I lay back and I relax and I just enjoy other people working for me. So it's not so easy to translate one-on-one to get the message across, but just to let you know, it's a funny claim, and it's also like, yeah, I'm so cool. I'm not driving myself. I just let others drive. I will get a ride. And this very nice, sympathetic guy with the green glasses, he's relaxed, he's laid back, and he's taking the bus to get home from a party. This is like the leitmotif of the campaign. You see them in all the different advertisement types that we're using, and this is how we translate his experience going home by bus, feeling like in a fancy club, feeling very welcomed, and just really enjoying the ride, because this is, you know, how you feel when you go home by bus when you're high. But it's apparently it's not quite serious. It's a funny joke. So I would like to show you a video. We have made a small film about the campaign, explaining how we made the campaign and showing a couple of the advertisements, because I think you have a better impression than just me telling you in words. So I hope you can see and also hear. It is in German at the beginning, so I have subtitles, and the second part will be in English. So let's have a look at that.
Das Bundeskabinett hat heute die Pläne von Gesundheitsminister Lauterbach zur Legalisierung von Cannabis gebilligt.
Aber was bedeutet das fürs Autofahren?
Gerade viele junge Autofahrer tappen da offenbar noch ziemlich im Nebel, was erlaubt ist und was nicht.
Ich habe es mal irgendwann gegoogelt und ich glaube, im Internet steht, das kann man gar nicht so richtig einschätzen.
Was mit 0,3 irgendwas?
Ja, vielleicht ein Joint. Das ist sehr abhängig vom eigenen Körpertyp. Ganz genau weiß ich es auch nicht.
74% of the population feel the same way. That's a fact. Marijuana increases your accident risk. In Germany, marijuana is therefore completely banned for drivers under the age of 21 and anyone on probation. But how do you communicate such a ban without coming across as preachy? We turn "don't drive" into "why drive when you can enjoy the ride?"
Hai fährt nicht, Hai lässt fahren. Cannabis erhöht dein Unfallrisiko, auch Stunden nach dem Konsum. Nimm den sicheren Weg. Lass dich fahren. Mehr unter hailässtfahren.de.
Driving is basic. Being driven is extra. We place this message not only in cinemas, but also on social media, out of home, on the web and on the radio.
Boah, bin ich breit.
Du bist Hai, kannst nicht mehr fahren. Doch da kommt er. BUS. Bequem, unkompliziert, sexy. Der Bus. Steig ein.
Nice.
Hai fährt nicht, Hai lässt fahren. Kiffen erhöht dein Unfallrisiko. Nimm den sicheren Weg. Mehr unter hailässtfahren.de.
We removed psychological hurdles and provided information on eye level. The result? The press, celebrities and the target audience all celebrated the campaign.
Wie würden Sie es finden, wenn Ihre Tochter Sie anrufen und sagen würde, hey, ich bin bekifft?
Startet der Deutsche Verkehrssicherheitsrat eine Präventionskampagne?
Der Papa von 3 Kindern engagiert sich jetzt gegen Cannabis am Steuer.
Ein Joint geht nicht, weil der wirkt bei jedem anders.
Hai fährt nicht, Hai lässt fahren. Das soll dieser Clip zeigen.
Message conveyed, goal achieved. Hai doesn't drive, Hai gets a ride. A German Road Safety Council initiative.
Das Bundes
So I hope you could see and hear the movie. Just give me a sign, please.
Yes, we could hear everything perfectly.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So yes, as you have seen, we call it 360. This is a 360 campaign on very, very different touch points. We had the video clip that you have seen. We had it on, we had it in cinemas. We had it on television, in the TV streaming. We had 3 different radio commercials in the classic radio, but also in audio streaming like Spotify and SoundCloud. And and Deezer, all those different channels that we have. And of course, as we're addressing young people who basically live online with their smartphone most of the hours of the day, this is a digital first campaign. We had a lot of social media content. I have brought just some examples for you. We had lots of different postings that we also used as ads on Instagram and also on TikTok, as we are saying that this is such a nice VIP feeling when you're being driven, you don't drive yourself, where we're using different luxury furnitures to say this is the seat next to the driver, or this is the seat at the back where you can relax and feel totally safe. And this is what's just catching the attention. And then in the captions of those postings, we were giving the information about the risk, about the effects, about the fines, about the THC level, everything. Also the combined consumption of marijuana and alcohol. It is especially very dangerous in traffic. So, and we're also using different memes that were quite popular on the internet, like on the right side. This is a typical Drake meme that is still very popular in German from the Canadian rapper Drake. So we're using just visuals that are popular and also well known in social media, and we're playing with them, and this turned out very well. What was the best even was the content on TikTok and also on Twitch. This was extraordinarily successful. As the German Road Safety Council does not have like an own channel on TikTok, we did some ads there, like the two ones you can see in the middle and on the right. We're having funny TikTok films that were about edibles. We were also talking about edibles, like the special brownies in this case. This was also a very, very popular video. And on the right side, this was a video about the combined use of marijuana and alcohol. That was also very successful. I will not show you those videos because they're in German and you wouldn't understand, so it doesn't make sense. I just tell you to have an impression what we did. And on the left-hand side, this is Jonas Ems. This is a very successful German content creator and influencer. He is very big on TikTok and YouTube. He has over 3.5 followers on TikTok who are exactly our target group. And this was a very great cooperation he did. He was producing 2 videos for us. And in his very humorous way that is typical for him. As you can see here, he was saying in this video how great it is to be the passenger princess when you get a ride, like someone else, your friend is driving, the sober friends, and you're the passenger princess. You can sit beside him and you can eat some chips, some snacks as he does in the video, and turn on the music and just relax. And this video actually was very successful. It went viral and had 21.1 million views in only 2 weeks, which was crazy. So yes, that's what we did on the digital channels. But even though we were having this digital first approach, we still wanted to meet the target group in person. Because you know, this one-way communication, for us it's not enough, because if you really want to have a successful prevention effect, we think that you should really meet the people and have them do something. So we made a roadshow that was in this September. That was quite a big thing. We were touring with a huge truck for 2 weeks through Germany, and we went to Munich, we went to Cologne, to Berlin and to Hamburg. So we're having all directions, the north, the south, the east and the west of the country. And those are also the cities in Germany that have the highest use of marijuana, which we can see by the analysis of the sewage water in those in German cities. So we had, to this huge truck, we had a big like an exhibition tent. And in this tent, we had different driving simulators. As you can see, we had a car, and we also had an e-scooter. The e-scooters are very popular in Germany with the young people at this age. But we also had, which you can see on the right side, a reaction wall, where there's like flashing lights coming up randomly, and you have to press them or to hit them quite quickly. And there were all two people playing against one another. And we did this, the first round just normally, and then they had to put on drug glasses, and they played the second rounds with the drug glasses. And so they could see there's so much worse. They're making too many mistakes. They can not even hit the light. So that was a fun part to do. And then the fourth thing we did there was like a course. Maybe you know those driving courses where you have to go through and have to do some things with like drunk glasses. We had those drug glasses, and the young people just have, besides the driving and then the reaction thing, they had to do a course where they could see how their coordination and motor abilities are affected in a negative way. And we were doing just very simple stuff like shaking hands, which did not work because they could not estimate the distances. They were missing my hand. They had to grab a coin from my hand and then walk down this course and put the coin into a small hole. And most of the time that just didn't work. And they had to walk straight, to walk like in a circle, and then walk backwards. And we really had to accompany them and always be by their elbow because they were really dizzy. Some of them nearly fell, so we had to be there and secure them. Yes, and this was a very great thing we did because we met over 1,000 young people, which we invited by addressing their schools, the professional schools, also companies that have apprentices or young professionals working for them. So they came from these institutions and had a visit and could test all those 4 different stations and really, experience, not only hear and see like an advertisement, but really experience with their bodies and their minds what it's like to be impaired and what it means. And of course, and the car and also the e-scooter, most of them, they caused accidents. There were car crashes, or they just crashed into a child or an elderly person. And that was a very great shock for many of them. So we had after that, we had like talks in small groups where they could talk about the experiences. And most of them, or many of them, said that it was really eye-opening to see what it feels like. And also that we're really concerned about their own reactions, because not only were many of them braking too slowly, because the reaction time is really bad when you're impaired by a drug, but also many of them showed a wrong reaction. Instead of pulling the brakes, they were accelerating, they were speeding up. So yes, that was quite eye-opening and very interesting to be in personal touch and having this interactive way of educating and informing the young people. And last but not least, what we also did, we have a lot of different actors that do road traffic or road safety prevention in Germany. And we know that they don't have that big of a budget like the German police departments in all the different Bundesländer. We have like, I don't even know the English word for that. We have different, like regional parts of Germany. And the police is very engaged there in road safety. They also go to schools. They have different weeks, even in the city centers where they have like events and they're informing people. So we made promotional gifts and distributed it just to them so they can use that for their own prevention efforts. And also all the driving schools across Germany, because those are the ones who are just in touch and personal touch with the young people, with our audience every day. So we had postcards that had funny claims, funny sayings on the front, and also this this bag that you can carry around, you know, can carry a message. As a target audience, you're like our product placements, our advertisement placements, and the postcards, they had a QR code that was leading to the landing page, heilestfahren.de, where you have a quiz, where you're learning a lot about the problems of, you know, driving impaired, but it's also made in a very entertaining kind of way, like edutainment, we call it. And we had gummy bears, as you can see on the picture. And we also had this green glasses that our hero in the film that you saw at the beginning, he's wearing the green glasses. And it's like a play of words, because when in German you say someone is wearing the green glasses, it means he is high, he has smoked marijuana or cannabis. And so we were just producing those green glasses that were branded. So on the side, they said, "Hi fährt nicht, Hi lässt fahren." And those glasses are quite popular. And yeah, many young people are wearing them now, you know, when they're on festivals or just out there in the summer. So they're also spreading our message in this way. So as I said at the beginning, it's exactly 1 year that we are having this campaign. We have 3 different media flights in this time. On the right side, you can see all the different social media where we have been. We have, of course, we had search engine advertisement. We have native ads on different websites where young people are going. We had also digital out-of-home advertisements that was placed near schools or universities. So, you know, where you can find also young people, also bars and clubs. We had the video and the audio ads that you just seen in my film. And we also had display banner ads, and we had a game ad that was working very well. I don't know if you have seen a game ad before. You see something, it looks like a game, you have to do something and then you win, and then there is an outcome. So that's quite popular at the moment in Germany, and it's really catching their attention, and you have the engagement for your topic. So that worked out really well. So on the whole results after 1 year, we are very happy, because our aim was not that high, but we overdone our aim. We had 163 contacts online and also offline, plus the radio reach. We cannot you know, have a certain real number for the radio reach, because we don't know. We can only estimate, but we cannot say who heard our advertisement on the radio. But it's more than the 163 million apparently. And also we had a lot of visitors on the landing page that we built, heilestfahren.de, nearly 200,000 visitors. And as I said, the roadshow was very successful. It was booked out really quick by the schools and the companies. So we had over 1,000 visitors there. And yes, very, very happy and content with the result of our work. And one result also, I have to boast a bit, is that the campaign was award-winning this year. There is an International Healthcare Ad Awards that is based in Atlanta in the USA. And we were winning in 4 categories: bronze, silver, gold, and merits. And at this point, the campaign is also nominated for another award. This is a public marketing award in Germany. And yes, we are very excited. Maybe we will win 1 more too. And yes, we will move on into next year with the campaign. We're excited to go on and proceed this work. And thank you so much for your attention, for listening. And if you have any questions, just ask them now, or you're very welcome to send me an email. You can see my contacts right here, and I'll be happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marina. That was a super interesting presentation. Isabel, do we have any questions?
Yes, Marina, you got some nice feedback from Carol. Brilliant. Congrats on this campaign of Jose. And Mette Miller has a question. Very impressive and interesting. Thank you for that. Do you do something also to reach out to groups which do not speak German?
We do not know, we don't do that yet, because as I said, we just started, and we focus on the German population, and we're using the German language. I think this would be too much at the beginning. I think we have to go on for a year more, at least, maybe 2 years. And then we would like to repeat the survey to see, has that changed? Have those answers changed? Is there more awareness? And I think you have to do the basic work first before having this campaign in another language. And I don't know what the intention of the question is, but if you're in German culture and you communicate in German, you know, it's tailor-made for the German audience at the beginning. We do have, of course, a lot of people from other countries living with us and speaking maybe English, but I think this is too early to do that at the beginning.
Okay, thank you. There is still one question of John Stanley. Is there research on whether lateral movements on the steering wheel, so he means by lateral movements, a sudden small change in direction. So is there research if these lateral movements on the steering wheel are a good indication of distracting driving? It could be simple and cheap to detect.
This might be a question for me. Yes, we do monitor different vehicle outputs, and they do give feedback on things like distraction and inattention. When they're combined with things like in-cabin monitoring, they can provide a really accurate picture of whether or not someone's paying attention to the road, or where their attention might be focused, to then sort of trigger those automatic responses, sounds or tactile feedback. So sorry, Marina.
Perfect. Thanks for
Thank
hopping
you so
in.
much. No, thank you, Amy. That's great. I would like to add something, if I may. So in Germany, we don't have that much research so far, because marijuana, cannabis was not legal until last year. But this year, I know there is a new research that was started in the professional area, and with what's the word? The forklift drivers, you know, like people working maybe at Amazon, and they're working in the storages, and they steer those forklift machines or trucks, which is very dangerous as a work to do. And I know there is a research running currently now with the effects of marijuana and distraction, and you know, the motor abilities and everything. But if you want to know more about that, just send me an email, and I will send you something on that.
Okay, this is what I would like to invite Sala Grilic also, or Marina, have a look in the chat. There is also another question, and maybe respond in the chat, because it's also a very interesting one. But I give the floor back to Sophie, because we're running out of time.
Thank you very much, Isabel, Marina, and Amy. And then I would like to give the floor to our last speaker, Katarina, who will talk about 2 Horizon projects.
So good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me. First of all, thank you to the other panelists for the really nice presentation so far. My name is Katerina Deleli, and I'm a project officer in the European Commission in one of the executive agencies, meaning that what I will be presenting now are projects done by external consortia, and I was the project officer monitoring and approving their work. The time is a bit tight to fit 2 projects, but I will try to do my best. But just to have a coherence flow in the presentation, I will start by explaining a bit how Horizon Europe funding works and what are some relevant research projects that we have in my unit that are on road safety. And then I will dive into some generic aspects of Panacea and FitDrive, and then go deeper into the results related to the issues driving under the influence. But before I continue, just to link with what we just discussed and the question to Marina about steering movements, both projects have done this. Really good driver monitoring frameworks. So if this is a question for someone, please Google the name of the project and dive into. And at the end of my presentation, I also have the results of the coordinators to follow up if you need. So I start by a presentation of our overview just to show that you are all taxpayers, your taxes go to research projects in Europe, you should have an idea what is happening. So at the moment we have about 15 projects on road safety, but there are also additional ones focusing on combination of issues like traffic management and road safety, urban planning and road safety. So there is quite a lot of interest and there is a lot of continuation in that respect. But we also have, as you probably know, the entire area of road transport from aviation to maritime to urban mobility. And then here, when we come to road safety, we are covering all the issues with the projects that are related to the safe system approach. All the 5 pillars, the infrastructure, safe users, post-crash care, speed management and enforcement, and safe vehicles. So in the area of speed management and enforcement and safe behavior, we have these 2 projects that I will be talking today, Panacea and FitDrive, that are both closed in the last year or 6 months, more or less. But then there is a wide umbrella, several other issues that we can see if you're interested in other topics as well. And then with that, I'm jumping into the projects. And I would like to say that the way Horizon Europe topics are drafted, designed, and funded, there is this top-down approach in the sense that there are societal challenges that need a really multidisciplinary approach. And then there are certain aspects, as you can see here in the bullet points, that the projects are supposed to address. So these are the call for topics. And for the case of Panacea and FitDrive, both projects should be able to address aspects like providing practical on-site and affordable screening devices that can detect issues in the drivings, how countermeasures can be developed and implemented to ensure that there is safety in the case of impaired drivers. How from this research there is a pathway to reach a more standardized framework across member states about driver regulation, driver training, and so in turn, in the long run, to contribute to the EU road safety targets. So essentially, the project, the topic was asking the projects to go beyond existing regulations, for example, these ones that I have listed here, because it was realized by statistics and trend monitoring that we have some gaps, and through research, some new solutions can evolve and eventually go into policy. So now I start by Panacea. This is a project managed by Swedish partners in VTI. And then the main thing of Panacea is roadside monitoring and assessment of driving ability. Both Panacea and FitDrive address to professional drivers. So this is a new layer, more specific compared to what we have heard so far by the other speakers. And then what they are trying to do is to get input from a variety of sensors in the vehicle, in the workplace, or even in the roadside, so that they can evaluate the fitness of the driver to drive. There is also issues related to fatigue. not only drugs or alcohol impairment. Drugs are considered as medicines or illegal substances in some cases, this exists, but also stress. So they have developed a system to monitor and collect data for all these cases, feed them into a system, process this data, and then produce some classification and some standardization processes that I will cover in a moment. On high level, the results and innovations of Panacea is that reliably and efficiently assess the physical, cognitive, and physiological filters to drive of commercial drivers. And then in the case of impairment, there was complementary countermeasures and also coaching to propose appropriate solutions for the drivers, the transport operators, but also for the enforcement officials. And these solutions that I will be presenting in a moment, they were tested in shuttle drivers in Sweden, in taxi drivers and power two-wheeler delivery drivers in Greece, and coach drivers in Spain. So here, if you look on the left-hand side of the screen, where is the 5 pieces diagram, essentially Panacea set up different tools and sensors. And then with data from the pilots, we had algorithms development to detect certain cases, and then platforms and applications to inform either the drivers or the enforcement officials or the operators about not normal, not suitable driving cases that have been detected, as for example, a driver is quite tired, is not safe for them to drive, or a driver is under the influence of a certain drug or alcohol. So again, it's not recommended, it's not safe to drive. And essentially, this is a holistic system. So you see all the different elements, the network, the computational the computational tools, storage of the data, things to provide personal information such as the identity. So it's a holistic approach that, among others, covers alcohol and drug detection. So now if we go to the right side of the screen, we can see the different sensors that have been implemented in the project. Some of them are new, existing commercial tools that have been used as is in the project or altered a bit. And then if we go to the second, there were several things to detect alcohol and drugs, illicit or non-illicit. And there are sensors on the wall. So for example, before a driver gets into the vehicle, there is this wall. They can be screened to see if something is in their body that could prevent them from driving carefully. But there were also on the vehicle sensors, or the case of what you see in the bottom right corner, something that you wear on your screen that through various measurements can understand if something is okay or not, if there are elements. Here there is a summary of all these different sensors. And essentially, if you can see the first two here developed by Senseair and Backtrack, they are commercial items that exist, but maybe we can say that they are not so well integrated in such a framework of monitoring the states of driving. We also have sensors being developed, let's say, from an earlier point of view, and which is very normal because this is a research project, as this saliva optical drug sensor prototype that is promising. It can do rapid on-site screening, but for example, this one requires further validation and some additional tests to make sure that it's perfectly fine. And then the other important element is that the information from all this system should come into a cloud decision and countermeasure system. So essentially, all this data was fused, and this could inform later on what is the case for each specific driver. So finally, when we go to the standardization system that the project developed, there is this classification issue here. We say, are drugs present or not present? And then the green indicates that everything is good. Red color in this diagram indicates that we are not very much okay. And besides drugs and alcohol, of course, there were measurements related to fatigue, stress, etc. And then finally, the project concluded with this system here. And they have these classifications that you can see on the right with the different colors, again, that you are not fit to drive. So essentially, based on the literature, based on current statistics and so on, if there is drug and alcohol, the decision is that you are not fit to drive. And this is quite important to understand because we talk about professional drivers that are going to be in the vehicle for some time. It's not, a short amount of time, which of course is also not good, but for them it's a continuous exposure to an unsafe situation. And then the lessons learned from this project is that the impairment in a professional setting is quite sensitive. And what they realized across the different pilots, let's say from Spain, Sweden, from Greece, there are cultural aspects that influence to what extent do we discuss, to what extent is it comfortable in the workplace environment to have this between an employer and an employee. So the acceptance of such a system varied depending on the cultural context. However, in every case, it was realized that it's really important to start by involving all relevant stakeholders when developing these solutions. And when we say developing this solution, we are still on the test level. We don't talk about adoption or anything, but even to be able to test something holistically and meaningfully, everyone had to be there, from the drivers, the operators, officials, and so on. Because essentially that's the only way to understand what are the true challenges and the true pain points that each stakeholder is facing, which potentially affect the further adoption. It was also realized that although some of these tools and some of these concepts are out there, there are sensors for drug detections, there is enforcement on drug and alcohol detection, yes. However, when you start setting this up in a commercial context, research is important, research teams are important to help build all these steps that are needed to pre-adoption that could potentially lead to adoption. Input from drivers and operators overall was positive, besides some, uncomfortable moments that, we talk about drugs and alcohol consumption in the workplace. However, both sides understand the benefits of this for the employees, that overall the working conditions are improved. So in the long run, this is a means of improving safety. And finally, the solutions that have been developed in Panacea looked drivers of coaches, buses, two-wheelers, but they do have the potential to be extended to other concepts like, first of all, non-commercial driving, but also other modes of transport like train drivers and so on. So with that, I close the Panacea, and quickly I'm jumping into the FitDrive project. So this is the sister project of Panacea. And again, they have done roadside monitoring and assessment of driving ability, again, targeting professional drivers with pilots across different cities and member states. And essentially, the objectives here are to monitor the professional driver fatigue, cognitive load, and reaction time. and in different situations, collect data from the driver, physiological data, but also tons of vehicle data that can be processed and produced a model that is able to detect not normal driving patterns, but also they can see the driver and understand if this person throughout the drive is fine or not fine to continue driving. Another objective that is quite relevant now to this event today is the exploration of a rapid roadside drug use detection and connection to police roadside controls. So essentially, they try to link driver/vehicle data to police. So when the police intervenes, this is done in a more resource-efficient manner. And finally, what they achieved, this approach, which is based on neuroscience and naturalistic driving, created a personalized driving profile for the driver, considering all these different parameters. And this is a very important aspect because we know exactly how this profile is being created, while in commercial vehicles, we have a black box approach that each manufacturer does its own thing, and we don't really know how this system works. And then there have been many recommendations for standardization of fatigue and fitness to drive thresholds, which have the potential to influence policy making. And then in terms of the results, more specifically, there was a faster and more reliable test for drugs developed by SecureTech that I will tell you in a moment. And then the system profiles the average driver behavior and detects when things are not so okay. And this is linked to operators' data and roadside data for further interventions and countermeasures. Here, on a high level, how this work started. So essentially, we have the professional drivers, the different states, potential algorithms to be used. And then through driving simulator, lots of literature review, there is this differentiation between what we consider usual pattern versus no usual pattern, and how from there we go to personalize profiles for each specific driver. So essentially, this continuous screening that was facilitated with the various sensors and measurements was able to detect the onset of fatigue or onset of altered behavior, which in many cases is not clear to the person who is driving, but then through the different sensors, this was able to be detected. And then here you can see all the elements in one slide of how this project contributed to knowledge sharing, to potential standardization, and so on. They offered a lot of elements for standardization of fitness to drive levels, which can then pave the way for ADAS, but also improve driver training and fatigue management, improve of police roadside control with better information and better resource allocation, created a portable drug screening device that saves a lot of time. So this is an overview, and with that, I'm going a bit more specific about this drug alcohol screening device. So essentially, there is this partner, SecureTech, that they have tools for alcohol and drug detections that are widely applied and so on, which is really nice. However, the role in this project was to develop and test a new tool for the same purpose. So essentially, they compared surface and haze Raman spectroscopy versus another way of detecting these substances. They came with former. I'm not covering this in detail, but if you ask me later, I can go to more specifications. So essentially, the very important element here is that, as I said, SecureTech has a list of tools that are used. However, they have higher times for getting a result, 3 to 8 minutes, while in the case of FitDrive, by using new sensors and new detection methods, let's say, they managed to significantly reduce this detection time. So this is a really nice achievement. And then the second achievement should be seen as a piece of puzzle in this bigger framework for the fitness to drive. And then what do we see from this faster multimodal drug screening? There are some risks and limitations. As I said, this is a research project. There is some validation in real world setting, but in those cases, sometimes these are quite, we cannot extend the project forever. We cannot extend the trials forever. So further validation is needed to varying conditions, to more populations, and so on. There are some cost and complexities of this search device that should be addressed before this device is fully commercial. This is a relatively new sensor for the police, so for their adoptions, there is the need for additional training. And then for every case of the drug alcohol detection, there has to be this legal basis for actually accusing someone. However, we are still able to talk about policy recommendations and further impact with these small limitations that I just mentioned. The project showed the potential to shape a fitness to drive frameworks considering multiple steps and datasets. So overall, this could be an integrated system that supports safe driving. There is more efficient enforcement through the communication aspect to the police to detect and stop specific vehicle-specific drivers, but also because of the faster detection time of the new tool. And then overall, it was realized in the project that when you have a framework for fatigue management, a framework for alcohol and drug detection, and these are integrated into the working culture, we can safely argue that this deters the behavior of drivers to be more mindful of what they consume before their driving tasks. And again, there is a need for regulatory framework for these things, and then this project can be seen as a seed for this case. I'm also very happy for Fit to Drive because they managed to go to the European Parliament and advocate and present their solutions and inform the relative policymakers at this high level of what is the potential and what are the benefits of such a system in the case of an updated regulation. So with that, I stop. Thank you for your time. Again, I'm thanking the project coordinators and the project teams. I'm saying again that this is not my work. It's a work done by external consortia. If someone from this consortia is in the group, please identify yourself because you deserve credit. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Katarina, for this very good overview of the two projects. Isabel, are there any questions?
Yes, Katarina, there is a question from Rafaela. Is this new test also from SecureTech? Do you know that, Katarina?
Yes. So what I said just in the beginning, that it uses this SARS framework, it is a new thing from SecureTech that was developed in the project.
Okay.
If you write me an email, I can point you to the deliverable or share something else with you.
In the meanwhile, are there other questions for Katarina? No other questions, Katarina. So if there are still some questions, they can contact you or the other persons which were also involved in the project. And then I give the floor back to Sophie.
Yes, thank you very much. This also means that we're closing the webinar. Thank you very much for everyone who participated in this webinar and stayed with us. Also, if you find this topic very interesting, do not hesitate to go to the Charter website, because we wrote an article about driving under the influence in Europe with some interesting statistics. We, of course, also had the awards a few months ago, and we had a category on driving under the influence of alcohol and drugs. And there we had 3 very interesting finalists: the Flying Box, the Drive Drug Free campaign, and the High School Driving Under the Influence program. So definitely take a look at these ones. We will send you also a link so that you can learn some more about best practices. And if you're not yet a member, then definitely sign up to the Charter so that you stay up to date with the upcoming webinars and other very interesting articles and best practices. So thank you very much for your attention, for your questions, and I wish you a very nice day.